All right.
Oh God,
should we
that's it.
start?
We're just gonna go.
Just raw dog.
Should we
Yeah.
just rip it?
Hell Money,
Rip it.
motherfucking podcast. All right,
We're
we're back. All
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
We've lived many lifetimes since the last.
I feel like I've
podcast
aged.
episode.
You know, like 2008 versus like 2012 Obama. Like, I'm not looking good. I'm
lot of
not
drone
at my
strikes.
youthful self. My pre-ordinals.
Yeah,
like,
they're gonna.
Yeah,
We
no.
hate to see him like this. No,
Yeah.
just kidding. You're a youthful king.
Just kidding.
Yeah, but we're joined, two guests.
Yep.
Matt and Bethany from the Aquarian Conspiracy.
Yeah,
My
and
co-conspirators in
she's- so-
astrological and esoteric knowledge around Bitcoin.
The Venn diagram that's going on is they are Aquarian co-conspirators.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I guess I'm like the interviewer, you know? I'm
Yeah,
like, hey,
it's actually nice. The focus is off of you.
I love it. I love it. It's incredible.
You can be the
So,
man
yeah,
behind the curtain.
This Aquarian conspiracy thing. What's
Yeah, do you guys
going
want
on?
to... Yeah, what are we here to do today?
Yeah.
You guys.
We're here to put forth a thesis,
Okay.
a claim about the intersection between Bitcoin and the astrological ages.
Okay. So Bitcoin, we've talked about this a little bit already.
I think we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah. I think I've actually stolen Matt's idea without like crediting you by name.
mentioned it. But I think we're just going to kind of like workshop the idea. So it's a pretty wingnet idea.
No, you're gonna
I
tell
mean, you
us that
say
it's
that, but
true.
you also have like literally pages
We have a lot of
of
slides,
notes.
right?
No,
Like,
just
there's
we wanna-
slides.
I want it to be presented to us
Okay.
like it's literally true. And
Okay.
that if
Okay.
we don't believe it, we're the crazy ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you guys just want to fucking launch into it? I mean,
Let's
I feel like
go.
you have so much.
Yeah, we do have so much. You want me
Should
to
we
start?
start? Yeah. Should we start with the
Some
well,
background
what
context.
is an astrological age?
Yeah, background context on an astrological age, which you have talked about before. You've
For
talked
sure.
about the Age of Aquarius. We all have some context that's like pre-reading, pre-listening.
Kind of, but I also realized recently when looking at our YouTube analytics that our audience is 98% male.
Oh.
So in terms of knowledge about the astrological age, I would expect lower
That was pretty
than
Okay.
a
average.
little
Okay.
problematic, but that's okay. 98. It's not. Is it dead center at 98? Has it been going up or down? Are we
It's
getting?
been staying exactly the same.
This might bump it.
Wow.
I
bump it down.
literally for a while I was looking
yeah.
at it. I was like, I think I know all like 6 women that watch our podcast.
You can name them, count them on one hand.
But yeah, anyway, I say that to say like our audience is I feel like a lot of Bitcoin.
skews low astrological.
But they like astrology.
Sensitivity.
Like I think people enjoy
By
it.
now, I mean we've weeded out
Yeah,
all the ones.
Well,
who-
I think that was kind of the impetus for the Aquarian Conspiracy was,
Yeah.
who likes astrology and who likes Bitcoin, and is there a way to bring them together in a way that's
The
natural,
synthesis.
not forced,
Yeah.
right? A shared culture. We're starting off with this picture of a spinning top, a gyroscope. So there's some mathematical aspects to this. We can draw in the natural autism of males.
Right.
yeah.
The natural, the
Yeah.
inborn autism.
You know, the male brain is very autistic. The more autistic you are, the more male you are.
Facts, yeah.
So yeah, wait, explain the gyroscope.
Well,
so is this just
okay,
a diagram
so-
to explain precession?
Yes.
Why
This
is it
the
called
intro.
processional?
Precession. So, okay. Yeah, this launch is great. That's a great question. Thanks, Casey.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Bethany. God, I love that shirt.
So, astrological ages are defined by what's known as the precession of the equinoxes. And essentially,
An equinox is the 2 times a year when the days are the equal.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah. So there's
Yep.
the vernal equinox, which
Where
is
the
the
day, for the listeners who don't know, are 98% autistic male
No.
audience. The equinox is when it's 12 hours of sun and 12 hours of
Well,
light
if you're at the equator, yeah.
at the equator.
Yeah.
I mean, who's the autist now?
That's exactly. It's the
And it
real
happens
question.
twice a year, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
it's the vernal equinox is the spring equinox, and then autumnal equinox is fall. And on the day of the vernal equinox, there is a sign that is rising on the horizon. So on the spring equinox, March 20th, that is the beginning of Aries season, but the zodiac that is rising is Pisces. So and in the zodiac wheel, that's going backwards. So it's a precession, not
Wait, no, I
procession.
don't understand that word precession. I
Like
still don't get it.
pre versus post. Like Pisces is before Aries. So it's precessional relative to Aries, which is when the equinox is.
Why wouldn't you just say precedes Aries?
Sure, whatever. I don't know. Fun word. You love words. How are you going to complain about words?
Should
Listen.
we go to the next slide for
Yeah,
an
we
illustration of this
got
concept?
we can't.
Roping it in. I ask a lot
Okay,
of
here we go.
questions,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, that's okay.
Okay, this is a quote from the Wikipedia entry about axial precession.
Nice. Cited sources.
Precessional movement of Earth. This is a diagram that illustrates that. Earth rotates once a day around its rotational axis, which is the red arrows. This axis itself rotates slowly, the white circle, completing a rotation in approximately 26,000 years. And so in relation to astrology, 26,000 years, a full rotation of the Earth, the axis rotating around itself, that's known as the Great Year in astrology terms.
Oh,
And it
can you
takes-
go back to the one slide before? Because now that makes so much more sense. I
Yeah.
see. So the Earth is rotating, and that's the like spinning of the up and down circle.
Yeah.
And then the larger spinning of the top is the precession, the rotation of the
Yes.
equinox, or
Yes.
the precession of like the pole. I see. Wow, that's beautiful.
Wait, can we go back to the next slide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
then imagine that as the gyroscope.
the top rotation is oh wow, and it takes 26,000 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, and it's called the long year.
The Great Year.
The great year. That's sick.
Or the cosmic year.
Yeah. There are a few different terms. And in also mapping 26,000 years onto the 12 signs of the zodiac, it takes roughly 2,500 years to move through a single sign. And so,
Oh wait, that's like 26,000 divided by 12, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
and so when you are, now we have been in the age of Pisces, it is considered that 0 AD, so at the birth of Christ, was the beginning of age of Pisces. And it has been about 2,000 years since the birth of Christ. So the idea is that we are entering into a new astrological age. And because it's a precession, the sign that is before Pisces is Aquarius. So we're on the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
And we've definitely talked about that a lot on How Money podcast at this point. I'm always talking about Age of Aquarius vibes up in here.
And there's some controversy around when the Age of Aquarius actually starts, right? Is that true?
There is.
Yeah. There is.
I kind of don't understand why there's controversy. Like, why isn't there some fixed, nice, clean, autistic, like start?
Well,
and end?
26,000 years divided by 12 could be, give you the nice clean.
Yeah.
Like, this is when the last age ends. This is when the last age starts, simply by counting years. But the astrologers have some ideas of, it's more of there's more of a transitional period, and there are certain, I can't really speak to this, but events or markers or transits that mark the actual entry into the age. Or would you say that there's never an entry? We're simply in transitional periods, and then once we get into the middle of an age, we're kind of very clearly in that. But maybe that's the...
Yeah, my understanding is like it's kind of dependent on how you calculate it. Like if you do it astronomically, astronomy doesn't care about the 30-degree slices of the zodiac. They care about like the literal boundaries of the constellations,
Which are not equal.
which are not equal and are not exactly 30%. And they're actually not even aligned with the constellations. That's a whole other story. But so if you do it by the 30-degree slices, like you can do it, like it's just, there's different ways to calculate it basically. And there's a little bit of a wobble, like is my understanding of like the actual precession itself. Like it's not like a clean, like linear progression through. So you kind of have like I don't know. I think of it as like a 1 to 200 year like buffer, where it's like you're in a transition between the two things. But there's controversy for sure. I don't know, Bethany, what do you think?
And I think it has to do with the fact that there was no precise data collection in ancient civilizations. And it's things where a lot of astrologers will say like the data collection was through the myth and the storytelling, which can be imprecise. And, but what astrologers will do from that is they'll extrapolate from myths and they'll extrapolate from art history and history of architecture. They'll look at certain cultural movements and they'll analyze the architecture and the megalithic architecture in particular as as these markers of the astrological ages, they'll look at the sort of themes that these civilizations were, the zeitgeist of these civilizations, and they can map those collective consciousness spirit of the times. You can map that to the different you can map that to the zodiac, and so you can sort of map the astrological ages. So for example, it's all very abstract, but for example, the age of Taurus, which would have been, this diagram is a little bit wonky because the zodiac wheel is flipped, it's mirrored because it's a precession. But the age of Taurus, which is this green Taurus glyph in 4,000 BC, Taurus is a sign of it's a sign of the bull. It's a sign of like communing with the earth. It's a sign of agriculture and value of the earth. And so the age of Taurus, there's one, maybe we can, I don't know if I should skip all the way to these slides, but there's Göbekli Tepe is a megalithic structure that has a lot of bulls inscribed onto the stones.
Inscribed.
Casey's triggered.
Can you explain what you mean by megalithic structure for those that may be unfamiliar with the spurged out term?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be part of our thesis. I think maybe we should rewind a little bit, though, and I'd like to dig into a little bit more about what you mean by the great year is divided into 12 zodiacs. Mm-hmm. And so those zodiacs have a bearing on each age, right? And so that's what we're kind of getting at. And we'll get at to like how we kind of see how that zeitgeist has been expressed for a very ancient age. But in general, it's like that sign has a bearing, is expressed, is like revealed, or just kind of determines, I guess, the civilization of that age. I'm kind of wondering from the astrologers, like
chicken and egg situation, in my opinion.
Okay, but it sort of, it can be used to think about the zeitgeist of that age.
Totally.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about a 2,000-year period, so it's not a single generation, it's not even a single civilization, but a whole arc. Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's like a civilizational arc, yeah, for sure.
And I'm wondering if before we get into like the discussion of the structures that emerge from these ages, you had a thesis about dividing the great year further, or rather more coarsely, into two cycles, into two halves. I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about, we're here on the precipice of the age of Aquarius, right? And Aquarius is the zodiac sign of the collective, of networks, decentralization. It is the mesh rhizomatic vibe, very much about Aquarius also rules traditionally the 11th house, which is a house of communities and networks and friends, acquaintances. And so what is directly opposite of, we went too far. Wait. Can't give it away yet. Directly opposite of Aquarius, we have Leo.
Which happened, when was that? 10,800 years ago?
Yeah, 10,800 years ago. And so Leo is diametrically opposed to Aquarius. Leo is the sign of the individual, the ego, the I. So you have I, and then you have we. And my theory is that the age of Leo, everything preceding Leo, so Virgo into Capricorn, was a time when all of us were like telepathically connected. And potentially we could all speak the same language. We were all communicating constantly with each other and like able to read each other's thoughts, very connected and in tune with one another. And then at the age of Leo, when you break into this like individual centered sign, the age of Leo is when it was sort of like the Tower of Babylon, when all language dissipated, disintegrated, and became, different, and we all became different. We individuated from each other. And so then this next cycle, going back now from the age of Leo through Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Pisces into the age of Aquarius, now we're coalescing at the age of Aquarius, we're coalescing back into the perfect network.
All right.
And from the
He's like, sure, why not?
Well, from I just like splitting that roughly into two halves, where on this half that we are exiting was the age of the most, like the development of the individual as a material being. And now we're going into the development of the individual as a node in a network, not necessarily a material network. But I'm also wondering if the astronomer and geologist can speak to what was happening 10,500 years ago as we exited that age of Leo.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many thoughts on everything you guys have said. Like,
cataclysmic
so far.
Transition and the origin of our eras.
Well, I think this is like such an interesting like component of like the myth making of our current time is so Casey, the beginning of the age of Leo, 10,800 BCE was when the Younger Dryas impact happened. And
what was the Younger Dryas impact?
Younger Dryas impact is like
Mexico, Yucatan.
It is actually a comet that broke apart in the atmosphere, and so there were several impact sites, but over North America roughly.
Got it. And was that the one that took out like megafauna or dinosaurs?
Megafauna.
Okay.
Yeah. Dinosaurs was 68 million years ago.
Listen.
So
Let's edit that out.
I love flexing my STEM knowledge on Casey because he like dropped out of high school, so I feel like you don't
STEM
know a
knowledge
lot
on
of
the
stuff.
STEM brain.
It's like, no, I'm sorry. I won't like.
They're like, let me take this opportunity to just shit on Casey.
I know. I don't mean it. Okay, but the Younger Dryas.
She means every word.
The Younger Dryas impact was an only very recently accepted theory that's like actually very well accepted in geology now at this point in planetary science. But basically, it's the giant comet impact that resulted or was coincidentally at, hard to say, the end of the last ice age. So it was a period of great warming. And it's kind of interesting that now we're entering into the Age of Aquarius and we like have this like great warming myth again, and like the mega flood, like the sea level rise stuff. Like there's really like so many directions you could go with this. But I think like, the idea of splitting like these two things into two halves is so interesting. I also think like, sorry to just keep like spurging out on these ideas, but like the idea of us like collecting telepathically again, I think about that every time I scroll through the TikTok comments of a viral video where I'm just like, holy shit, I'm just watching people like, it's not even like the thought of typing out the comments that I see is like crazy to me. It literally feels like I'm just tapping into like an intrusive thought network.
So basically like TikTok comments and like the internet and social media is all a return to the age of what, Taurus?
Like pre-Leo.
Yeah, when we all had one
this
brain.
whole arc of
to a collective consciousness
like
time.
a Gaia-like connection. If you read the Foundation series, the Gaia is the planet that is like conscious. But also, I would place a lot of our cataclysmic myths like Noah, the flood, the Sumerian myths of the flood, the fall from Garden of Eden as emanating from that period when we lost that conscious connection. We lost that universal consciousness. And we spent the past 11,000, 12,000 years trapped in our own bodies, trying to reinvent these ways to connect with each other. And now we're reaching the end of that cycle, and we are approaching these incredible technologies that are still in like a primordial state. It's going to take thousands of years to perfect, but we're seeing now the beginnings of that.
Damn.
So anyway, we're gonna tie that a little to the material creations of the past six astrological ages. Was there something about this slide to better illustrate precession?
I included this graphic again to illustrate precession again. And we have the vernal equinox. Eventually, what I want to say to close the chapter on the precession of the equinox is that eventually the spring equinox will start on February 20th instead of March 20th every year. And February 20th is the beginning of Pisces season. So therefore, the sign that is rising on the horizon would be Aquarius, and that would be the official Age of Aquarius. And again, it's not precise because the data collection was imprecise over the last 6,000 years. And so we don't have like mathematical or physical hard science ways of calculating this. I will just put forth as my own deranged
go for
theory
it.
Is my birthday is on February 20th. And every year...
So that's going to be the new...
Obviously. I remark every single year, no matter where I am, I've lived in the Midwest, in New York, and in New Mexico, it's always unseasonably warm. Or at least it has been. I've noticed that over the past maybe like 10 years. So I'll just leave that there.
Yeah. Maybe Punxsutawney Phil has something to do with that.
Yeah.
Did we mention what marked the beginning of the age of Pisces? Year 0 AD in our current calendar.
Birth of Christ.
The birth of
and
Christ.
I've definitely talked about this on the podcast before, but like, Age of Pisces was very much religion as the opiate of the masses. The hierarchical structure of the monotheistic religions was the dominant structure of the Age of Pisces. And that's how we organized our lives, our morality, our civilizations, our consciousness was all organized around these like major religions. And I do feel like that is like Pisces' inclination to just sort of dissolve into the ether kind of thing.
Right. A very spiritual sign, a sign about belief over doubt, the triumph of belief over doubt. And yeah, definitely about monotheistic religions. Like there is one singular God, there is maybe one Messiah, very monotheistic in nature.
Whereas Aquarius is like decentralized, no gods, no masters, like, rock and roll.
Here we get to
wow. Okay, here we fucking
the thesis statement.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. All right. All right. Tell me about Pisces.
So
do you want to give a citation for these?
No.
I made this slide.
I thought it was Santos.
Me.
I thought it was Bonacci.
Bonacci made the connection for me. Yeah, Santos Bonacci, highly recommend. He's an astrotheologist.
Yeah.
A syncretist. But essentially this is like punchline number 1, or this is like the thesis. So as we move from Pisces, the sign of believing and faith, into Aquarius, the sign of knowing. So what's happening in these quotes is all 12 zodiac signs have I statements. Aries is I am, Taurus is I have, Gemini is I know, etc., etc. Or Gemini is I can't remember what that one is. But it goes through all the zodiac signs. Each sign has an I statement assigned to it. Aquarius is I know, Pisces is I believe. And so going from the age of Pisces, I believe, to the age of Aquarius, I know, going from trusting to verifying. Where does that sound familiar? Anybody? Any Bitcoin listeners?
Don't trust, verify, bro. I love this. I mean, this is just like so ridiculous. Like when I saw
Aaron is beaming.
Yeah.
Absolutely beaming.
Bethany, didn't you say, were you working on this on the plane? And like the person next to you was like, what are you doing?
Yep. The person sitting behind me and across the aisle, once we landed and we were deplaning and waiting for everybody to leave, she was like, what was that on your laptop screen?
What I like about this is like we will only know the transitional. Like in our lives, we'll only know this transition, this tension, and this like captures the tension of the past, I guess, 2 years. If we mark 2020 as the beginning of the Age of Aquarius, but really the past maybe 50, 60 years, is this conflict between the Piscean morality and reverence and desire for transcendence, and the I believe to the tail end of the age of rationalism, the rise of rationality, and the rejection of this like blind faith and a seeking of something else, not necessarily material, but this in a different way, I guess, a mathematical transcendence, a verification. But we can just see this as just like, a parody of like the past few years of like, I believe versus the I knowers, the experts versus the fuck you.
Sure.
I see it with my own eyes kind of people.
Yeah, I feel like this graphic is like, we got to make like merch or something out of this. Like, it's just like literally, it's perfect, like the trustless, like don't trust, verify transition is so Age of Pisces into Age of Aquarius, like leaving the fiat monetary system.
I mean, but here, is this a good transition? Like, how do we know this is a positive transition?
That's a great question. Is there good? Is it bad? Can we assign these kind of like values?
Yeah.
Because we've been in an Age of Aquarius before, right? In like human history.
Mm-hmm.
How is it?
Can we say one age is better than the other? Yeah, did they leave any remnants? We don't really know. But I don't know. Do you have thoughts on this? Like to ascribe a kind of hierarchy to these ages? Like I think it's a little antithetical to our cyclical view of time.
Yeah, I think that there's no real. I think that that's a very progress oriented perspective to say that one has hierarchy over the other, because in reality, the cycle, it is a cycle. It's a zodiac wheel. And so it's really just rhythms. It's not necessarily like one is better.
It's samsara. We can't exit. It's the fucking snake eating its own tail, Well, but the thing is, like, you can find purpose in your like little role in it, like being like, meh. I'm a little character in the transition of the Age of Pisces to the Age of Aquarius. How lucky am I? The luckiest girl in the
What a
world.
time to be alive.
No, but that is where we're going with this. Like, what is your purpose in each age?
Totally.
How can you communicate beyond our life, our civilization, our age? Like, that becomes a big question of each age to transcend it. And so, the Piscean age was like, how can we perfect man? It's like, well, the example of Christ is the most perfect man. In the age of Aries, it was like, how can you be the most perfect, like, bloodthirsty warlord? It's like, build a Colosseum.
No, that's totally true. Yeah, and for context, Casey, the age of Pisces the age of Aries was before the age of Pisces. If you think about like the Caesar figure, the Roman emperors, like that is like age of Aries. Aries is like a war-driven
Age of the Conquerors.
Yeah, I mean, you wearing your war T-shirt was like a very Aries move.
Nice.
That is very Aries. Anticipating Aries.
But kind of building on our cyclical, like circular analogy. In 3 dimensions, it could be a spiral. So as we're entering this age of Aquarius, we can think like it's not necessarily going to be better than the age of Pisces or good, but is it better than the last age of Aquarius? Have we ascended in like the third dimension?
Yeah. Or descended.
Hard
to say. Good question.
And I guess the other thing that I would add too is that as you are trying to perfect and embody the astrological age, because I do think that there is something, I mean, personally, I do believe that there is like a divine intelligence that is working these things, and we feel that. We are tapped into that, whether we are a part of that divine intelligence or we're projecting it or we're just experiencing it. I do think that there's a reason why these megalithic superstructures, either in the form of pyramids, in the form of these temples.
Should we
give me a megalithic structure definition?
You're getting into kind of the second thesis, but should we define what a megastructure is and what a megalithic structure is?
They're like, no,
just to finish the thought. Just to finish the thought, though, is that like it's our imperative because we can feel, like we intuitively do feel these shifts, and we intuitively do feel the astrological age that we are a part of, and so therefore we express that through these megalithic superstructures,
right?
Yeah. Which can be the pyramids.
Right. Well, is there a slide for this?
It just goes straight.
Okay.
Climax number 2.
So I mean, we're getting into like 14-year-old boy like history stuff. This is not anything groundbreaking. Pyramids, walls, big stone things. But the fundamental question that we've been kind of like thinking through as we peer forward to the Age of Aquarius is like, okay, what's going to be like the main thing? How do we express it? What's going to be created through the Age of Aquarius? And in thinking through that, we're kind of thinking, well, what has been created by the previous ages? What are the things how do we even know about the civilizations of previous ages? Do we read their texts? Do we read their books? Do we have their papers? Do we see like their clothing? No, generally we have only remnants of the most like massive or persistent structures. And how do they make something persist through time to our age? Like say something from the age of Aries or even further back, age of Taurus. It was whatever they concentrated all the energy of their civilization into creating so that it could last beyond their civilization. So I think our working definition for a megastructure or a megalith is just simply something that persists like kind of in an indefinite way beyond the civilization that created it. So it's not their clothes, it's not even their language sometimes. It's definitely not their whatever ephemera. It's not going to be like our MacBooks. But the pyramids did that. The civilization that created that no longer exists, and we only know them.
What was the age of the like pyramids? Like which astrological age is associated with the pyramids of Giza?
Depends on which Wikipedia page you read.
Yeah, literally. That's why I asked. Like I asked the experts.
I mean, I think we placed it at the age of after the age of Leo or around the age of Leo.
Around age of Leo, age of Cancer.
The Sphinx is looking at Leo, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
The water erosion thesis.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He's like,
muttering out the side of your mouth.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, not to derail. I just was wondering.
Yeah. This is situated around age of Leo / age of Cancer because, well, also, no, I guess it would be Leo because these are oriented towards Sirius, the fixed star. The points.
So this is the whole like, if you're trying to do like alternative history and like rewrite.
Oh, you be trying to do alternative history.
Yeah, we love alternative history. The Aquarian Conspiracy is all about alternative history.
I'm still trying to figure out what the conspiracy is. Is it a specific conspiracy? Like, are you going to kill
Well,
somebody?
Or
Or
what does conspiracy mean?
Do you know? So conspiracy means to breathe together.
Or
conspiring. So it's like we're just breathing
You're
together.
just
We're just a bunch of hot air.
Literally just blowing hot air.
I thought there was going to be a plot. You know,
There is.
There is.
there's going to be a plot.
There's a plot.
Plot is 26,000 years long. It's gonna take a while to go through.
And then
Oh
it
my
repeats.
God.
But then, but like the way that you can like date like megastructures of the past using like alternative history astrological concepts is like see what they're oriented towards. Because like if you wanted to like you know, you don't think like they would just make the pyramids in some random orientation, do you?
Yes.
Like you know they want the
That's fully
Sphinx.
consistent with my worldview.
They want the Sphinx to be looking at something significant. So like you can trace back like megastructures, and especially like if there are megastructures from civilizations that are pointed in different directions like over time, you can kind of use that to track like and then you can line that up with like, I mean, you can literally do radiocarbon dating on that and date them and then like line them up. Like there is like science, like archaeology, genuine archaeology that also backs it up.
But I mean, then if they're all pointing in the same direction, like, is that sort of maybe a coincidence?
No. So the thing is that the different structure, like depending on what
Little
megastructure.
coinky dink over there.
No. Fucking hater
Megalithic
over here. God damn it.
coinky dink.
No.
Just randomly placed blocks. Yeah.
Yeah, if they were randomly placed, but
Like
if
you go on some teenager's Minecraft server, you know,
and
just build
I
some
bet
stuff.
they're all aligned with the precession of the equinoxes. Anyway, moving on.
Well, we might have to modify the thesis to include Minecraft because that is where blocks are being placed. Yeah.
That's true.
That's where work is being
Blocks
done.
are being placed.
Blocks are. How did they move those blocks?
they sung them together.
They were sung together. But I mean, it is the celestial alignments of all of these megalithic structures around the world are quite uncanny.
It is. Yeah. I don't. We don't have like an entire like History Channel documentary to try to convince you on this one.
Thank God.
I mean,
You're gonna
let's
have
continue.
to just go with it. Yeah.
So I mean, some significant things about the well-known megaliths are that they do encode certain mathematical properties to kind of communicate that they had understanding and advanced understanding of geometry, like the pyramids. You know, the height of the pyramid is like 2 pi, the perimeter of the pyramid. So it's like a projection of the top of the sphere of the earth that the Great Pyramid is. And then likewise, these pyramids, the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan, the height is 4 pi, the perimeter, I believe. So they also had an understanding of pi, which predates, you know, what our classical like understanding of when pi was discovered by the Greeks. Also, as we were talking about, these attempt to like reflect the cosmos. From the past 6 ages, we were in relation to the skies. We were in relation to like the living on Earth, and so we're like reflecting the cosmos down into these physical structures, these little like rock and earth and mounds that required a great amount of work, a concentration of all the energy of that civilization.
Another trigger word.
To arrange these blocks in such a way where it was like these are clearly going to be gone or like still be here after
so much
I'm
work
dead.
to arrange these blocks, huh?
After my children are dead, after the children's children, after even this whole civilization just falls apart. Right? So that's our definition of a megastructure, is something that lasts beyond the civilization, but through which is how subsequent ages even know that the civilization existed. Mm-hmm. So it is the only way to communicate with the future are through these megastructures. Like,
and the megastructures themselves and where they're oriented, how they're situated, are like a signal that's being broadcast to future civilizations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a theory that the pyramids of Teotihuacan, these arrangements are trying to like encode the orbits of the planets. So like if you place the sun at the middle of like the center of the patio, I think like the main plaza, and then like go out, there's like at the orbit of like the Earth and Venus and blah blah. There's like you can find the markers, and then even like a few kilometers away is where you find like Pluto even.
Damn.
I'd have to cite that, but like there's something there. So they had deep astronomical knowledge.
Shit.
Wait, even Pluto?
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
That's-
I mean, I will have to cite that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But where and why did they have this advanced astronomical knowledge? Where did they inherit it from? I mean, that's the theory of the ancient civilization that was reset, taken out by the great catastrophe. But either way, this was the communication of that. It was the culmination and the peak and the concentration of all the scientific and energetic capacity of that civilization. And what's crazy is we don't even know who built these. We associate it with the Aztecs discovered it, but they don't know who built it. They just like found it and started doing sacrifices on something.
The Aztecs were like the archaeologists. That's how old these are.
That's fucking crazy.
They were already like millennia old when they discovered them. And so this is a great example of this civilization is only known because they put together a bunch of blocks in the forest into the shape of a pyramid.
Totally.
Here's another a diagram of the pyramids and the orientation. They're celestially aligned.
Nice.
In ways that maybe we don't fully understand. The Sphinx, which is aligned with
Age of Leo.
Age of Leo, because was it during the Age of Leo that like I guess that's when the constellation Leo, right, because of the definition, was rising during the vernal equinox over.
And the vernal equinox would have been September 20th. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Göbekli Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe. Rewrote
extremely
the books.
old.
That's not the one. Yeah, that's in Turkey. It's just like a megalithic site, and it's not really megalithic. I mean, is there any large central
they're big
structure?
rocks, so I think it's a megalith.
Yeah, there's it's a little bit hard to see in this particular picture, but these like T-shaped monoliths that are stacked on top of each other in a perpendicular fashion count as a megalithic structure. And simply because they're just huge rocks.
So the reason why is just because it's really hard to move big blocks?
Wait, the reason why what?
Like why like rocks make it a megalith? Like it's like how did they move
Yeah,
the
how did
rock?
they
I mean, the
move?
word lith, it means rock, so it's kind of a definitional issue.
Right, I should probably know that.
Right,
It kind of means big rock, you know.
But that's why we're generalizing it to mega structures. So there might be some structures that aren't necessarily made out of rocks,
Sure.
which are still mega structures, which require immense amounts of energy to be made, and yet they still persist beyond the civilization, even though they're not rock.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're trying to describe. And so what is like a mega structure of? Well, do we have any more pictures? There's a Göbekli Tepe. There's more Göbekli Tepe.
Nice.
And they were buried. Göbekli Tepe was buried at some point, I think 8,000 BC. So that's why it's so well preserved. It's very odd.
Intentionally.
And intentionally buried.
No, that's literally true, Casey. That's not pseudo-history.
How was it buried?
They don't know. It just was buried. It was intentionally buried. And then they dug it up.
They wanted to preserve it. They wanted to hide it. Or hide it, yeah. Another classic, Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Classic.
Another thing, so Stonehenge is a classic example that the megalithic or megastructures have a relationship to time usually. Not just like they're created of that era, but they help define time in that era. They help tell time in the era, right? Stonehenge was a way to determine when the equinoxes are happening, tell what time of the year it is, but also the constellations, like the way they were arranged, right, back in that astrological age, would have looked in a certain way from Stonehenge during those like equinoxes.
And you might recall that on the solstices, which are there's the equinoxes where the daylight is equal, but the solstices are, of course, the summer solstice is when the sun is at its highest point relative to whatever hemisphere you're in, and then the winter solstice is at its lowest point or furthest south relative to your hemisphere. And so with Stonehenge in particular, but there are many other megalithic sites, particularly Northern European, that have the same sort of shape structure. And on the solstices, the sun is coming in right in the middle there. So it's all, that's what Matt means by they define time. They're sort of like, these megaliths are very, they're broadcasting calendrical knowledge of like the calendar, like the solstice, the equinox kind of thing.
I like that this picture kind of looks like a Windows background, but with like Stonehenge.
You didn't even know what you were
it.
looking at all those years on Windows 95. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Illuminati right there. What are they trying to say?
Exactly.
Yeah,
What are they
they're-
trying
yeah.
to tell us?
I don't know what the next slide is. I don't want to give it away. But
It's
going
not
to
the
Age of
finale.
Okay, there's a serpent mound,
Serpent mound, classic.
I think you had a slide here showing.
Yeah. The Serpent Mound
Again,
is
it's
really
aligned.
interesting because, so it's in Ohio. It's sort of, it's very enigmatic because people are sort of like They don't know if maybe it was the Anasazi that built this. They don't really know. They don't know a whole lot about it. It can't naturally occur, obviously, like this serpent mound. But then when they look at the celestial alignments, the head is facing the summer solstice, the tail facing the winter solstice, and like these three sort of bends in the serpent are all making celestial alignments, which is odd.
I mean, I think it makes sense. If you're going to invest this much time and energy into making a megastructure, you might as well align it with nature. Like, why would you not?
And I don't know what the next slide is, but kind of just like
beautifully
speculating though, right? So we have like these components of what makes a megastructure. A lot of energy, a lot of work that doesn't really do anything functional except create something that's lasting, but also orient you in time in that age. The megastructures of the age of Pisces, what are they? We haven't really built any pyramids since the birth of Christ, but we've built a lot of cathedrals. But also our megastructure, if it defines time, we could say that institutions are megastructures. And so we're kind of like, is the institution of the church, the universal church, a megastructure, or the monotheistic religions themselves a megastructure, because they have definitely persisted past the civilizations that birthed them. Like the Roman civilization of the Mediterranean no longer exists.
Rome itself is just a giant megalith at this point.
True. So that was our megalith of the Age of Aries, like the whole city. But the Age of Pisces is the beginning of this like leaving of the material and finding the most perfect embodiment of the individual, the man, and preparing for a transcendence into the immaterial. And so we have this weird kind of hybrid of like material, big stone, references to the Age of Aries, the Roman architecture being used to kind of recreate the classical architecture, being used as reference for cathedral building. But really the structure of the cathedrals is meant to house the real megastructure, which was the monotheistic religion.
The spiritual belief.
That became basically, took over the world at a certain point.
Again, it's this definition of like the megastructures are meant to broadcast where like the astrological age for future civilizations. It's meant to tell you something. It's meant to encompass and be like a container or the set of all sets. These megalithic structures or megastructures.
Sure. So like the megastructures are both like encapsulating the values of the civilization and also its time and place, like quite literally.
Yeah.
Like by orienting itself along things that represent the time and place in which it was built.
And in a way, imprinting that civilization onto the universe. Of course, the pyramids will return to dust at a certain point. So there's like these, maybe imperfect attempts to imprint your civilization onto the universe materially. I would argue that some of those civilizations have also imprinted themselves onto the holographic manifold of the universe in a way that's much more lasting than a pyramid that returns to dust. And the Piscean age has attempted that even further by imprinting on kind of the global consciousness, like the structure that lives within our own minds. And as we enter the Age of Aquarius, the minds that have been imprinted with this Piscean structure seek now to liberate themselves from the centralizing tendencies of that imprinting force and start imprinting new things, but in kind of, under the modes of being and operating and living of an Aquarian age, i.e. through the network, decentralization, the connection with like the universe and God being accessible to every single individual, not just like through a mediator, through the mediation of this institution of a church and a priest and a hierarchy. We have some more pictures of some rocks that were placed together. I think these are in the Andes, and now we're gonna get to like.
These are Incan.
What is seen these specific rocks before?
This is a very famous image. There's not a lot of visual references of. This is called polygonal masonry, and it's Incan, and there's not a lot of visual evidence.
I wish I knew like the planning process here. Like how far ahead did they plan this wall? Like
that's the mystery. Yeah. That's the mystery. And there are some people who are like, there's a lot of different history of art, history of architecture hypotheses out there. But like some people are sort of like, they like eroded over time and then they just kind of like slipped down together and then no,
of course
no.
not.
And so there's some hypotheses though that are like they were sung together.
Right. Some sort of like Atlantean technology of sound manipulation was used to fit the blocks
my
together.
favorite.
Fucking go.
Naturally.
Oh, I think when Matt mentioned that to me, I was like, oh my God, that's why they're the throat singers. The throat singers can like do like like polytonal singing, and like they did it to
Can't you
construct
do that?
this.
No, I mean, I make a sound that's very weird.
Yeah.
Are you levitating, bro?
That's literally it.
No, it's
not
not.
what?
It's not it. I think
Isn't
I'm just.
it?
No, I think I'm just making a whistling sound, a weird sound in my mouth, and a sound in my throat. I gotta say, I like these rocks a lot. I mean, I think they're
The polygonal masonry.
I mean, that's not how I knew them. I just knew them as these nice rocks that were fitted together really nicely, you know?
Yeah.
What
yeah,
I wonder
they do
about
fit
is like,
together.
did they needed a wall, right? Did they just get rocks and then they were like, okay, each rock, how do we cut it so that we can add it to this wall? And then we put it in, and then to us it looks a little bit random, but actually it was built up like,
For scale.
Listen, I like a good rock.
So yeah, we love rocks here. Yeah, between these two slides, it is a little bit like this looks very intentional, and it's just like, oh, there was some design choice here, there was some calculations going on, some geometry going on to get this to fit together. But then this is a little bit like it's a little bit more rough hewn.
But
It's
we're on rocky territory now.
yeah. Where it's like,
So
okay,
warm. Maybe you want this on the rocks? Sorry, continue, please. I'm done. That was it. That was the last one.
That's his contribution to the episode.
Yeah. I'm not gonna be involved.
These are more. It doesn't feel as intentional.
Where are these, by the way? Where's
these are in South America.
Okay.
They are Incan structures, and yeah, this is a little bit more enigmatic. This image right here, and it's sort of like, did they come together like fully on purpose? Like, can you really say? Like, I mean, can you really say or can you derive any evidence to say like this huge rock right here had to fit together with these two smaller ones? I don't know. To me, that's like the most interesting part of the mystery of the polygonal masonry is like, it's intentional enough, but then there's also an element of like, of surprise. There's an element of like, you're just like, it's sort of a crapshoot almost, which, am I ready to unveil?
Well, no, I think we should discuss and kind of like spitball a little bit about as we enter this current age, right? We already discussed like the.
You said something about the edge before.
So you're like, I'm gonna blow, dude. So, well, I mean, I think you'll like this. I mean, this is why we're here. Why are we talking on this fucking podcast about rocks? And, you know, real
like,
rocks.
Give me the Bitcoin.
God, I thought I didn't want to talk about ordinals. When do we get to the ordinal?
So, all right, Age of Pisces, we're coming out of it. There's clearly a huge megastructure, which will be with us for this, for humanity for a while, even as we exit the Age of Pisces, because a lot of energy was concentrated and put into it. And I would say the Bible is kind of a megastructure, right?
That's the megastructure.
Because it exists forever because of the technology we've created during the Age of Pisces. To reproduce it, it will never disappear.
Crazy, like in the concept of, in the vein of these ideas that are around forever, there's these weird things that are very unassuming, but then they've replicated to an insane degree. Like one example is libz or zlib. It's a compression library. It just happens to be this compression library, and it's like everything needs compression. Your phone needs compression. Every device needs compression. I think it might be one of the most replicated pieces of data on planet Earth. There's like billions and billions of copies of it in different devices. The Bible is another such example, right?
It's the most printed book.
Yeah, most printed book for like probably the book with the most extant physical copies ever. Another one that's very obscure, I'm going to forget the name, but it's like a numbered timing circuit. It's a very, very small circuit. It's made out of like 5 discrete digital logic gates, and its purpose it's you know, like you see like a circuit board and you see these little like packaged ICs. It's like one of those, and its purpose is to provide a timing signal for whatever device you're building. And this is something common that you need when you're building some kind of electric devices. And it's been, I think, the like most reproduced circuit by far since its inception. and in like 1970 or whatever when it was designed. And it's not like it's very simple. It's very like elemental, and the fact that it is such a good design and that it is not this like sophisticated thing that keeps getting improved on. It's like, no, some engineer sat down in 1970 and like put some digital circuits together, and like we still replicate that.
And it was perfect.
It was perfect.
And,
like
and
the way
what
the
was,
blocks came together, it was just perfect. One shot.
And
first try.
what was the purpose
Of what?
of those circuits?
The circuit is in every device. I mean, almost every device. I wouldn't be surprised if there were literally multiple in devices, probably like 24, but it's to produce a timing signal. Most electronics in some way need a clock that tells them, you know, how fast time is progressing.
Yeah, that's the whole premise of Y2K, right?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Not quite. It's at a lower level. It's at that's like date, but this is just like, imagine you have this, like, we're recording on this, you know, some device, and it has, when you press a button, a light goes on for a second. Well, how does it know a second has passed? It needs some sort of measurement of time.
It's some sort of like physical definition of a second is like oscillations of some element in there.
I think actually that is, I mean, and this timing circuit, I'd have to look into what it exactly does. I forget if it's not, I don't think it provides the actual time. I think it provides, or it might. I don't know. Hard to say.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It is really cool.
I love
That's
these.
going to be like a fun fact for me now.
Yeah, I love these like weird, highly replicated things that are
the
very
memes.
unassuming.
I like that that are like pointing that out though, because I think it can add to our definition. Is a megastructure could be a single thing that is just permanent. It has it has duration over time, or it could be something that self-replicates. Yeah. And like I would say the Bible self-replicates because anybody who touches it will then want to replicate it. Like it's their duty to continue printing it. This circuit, because of its design, it needs to be replicated. And so there's certain things, they don't, like, each individual doesn't need to persist, but it will persist because it like has a mechanism or an incentive structure built in that causes it to persist and replicate and continue forever.
Another self-replicating object is the SM58 microphones that we're all holding.
I thought you were going to beat us to the punchline, bro.
These were made invented in when, like 1960 or something, 70. Very, very old microphones. Basically, design hasn't changed at all, and we use them in videos, and then other people see them in the videos, and they think we look cool. Because we do. I mean, you guys look cooler. I've got this weird thing on my mic, but you guys look cool, and then they go out and buy SM58 microphones and make videos, and then the cycle continues.
Right. As long as we have the eternal need for people with podcasts, we will always have
the eternal need for people with podcasts.
I've got some like hyper wingnut ways to connect this to our thing, because all the megastructures that we've talked about are megaliths. They date back to the age of Leo, right? So like what was happening in the previous ages, that cycle, that half of the great year when we were all in this like universal consciousness. Well, we didn't need to create a pyramid. We didn't even need to create houses. We're just like all vibing, right? We're like one large collective like biological computer. So before we maybe get to that though, because maybe we in fact are surrounded by the megastructures of those previous ages, but we don't yet have the ability to perceive what they are because they're not material in the way that a rock is. We're still like rock brained. And we're in this transition where the rock goes from material to digital, right? So we have the we can start to get to discussing what's the megalithic structure going to be of the Age of Aquarius. We're not going to build a pyramid, are we? We're not like, even these skyscrapers here in the city are going to dissolve into dust. You? My clothes are going to, all the buildings that we create are like a few hundred years, and they're going to be either destroyed or they're going to dissolve into the ocean, right? We don't make things that last, physical things that last, but we're creating an immense amount of energy with our civilization. I would say most of it's dissipated into like server farms that just create stuff that is eventually deleted. The heat just dissipates from our houses. So what are we putting our energy into that persists over time and as a mechanism that self-replicates and as an incentive structure for the civilization that creates it, but not only that, but a civilization that inherits it to continue replicating it? And I pose that question for our host. Okay, come on.
It's Bitcoin.
Okay, well, that's why we're here.
Are you ready?
It's
we believe.
Are you fucking ready?
Are you fucking ready for this?
Oh, right.
Oh my God.
Wasn't that worth it?
We could just end the episode right here. It's all worth it. All that fucking astrological bullshit. I'm back in. I'm dialed right back in.
I wonder what that big one is, you know?
Yeah. I love that.
What
Like
could
as
it
soon as
mean?
you saw the one before, you're like, I like the way that looks.
I don't know where I've seen this before, but it looks familiar.
Yeah, you recognize the polygonal masonry. You recognize the mempool in the
Rock
masonry.
Jolly Big Penis.
Like, literally, Jolly, come back. We miss you. Honestly, I think like the rocks, like Rock Toshi,
Right.
the transition.
truly.
So just
We're so obsessed
put a
with
bookmark
rocks,
in that, though.
you know?
Going back to the Bible, what was the Bible? That was not simply a mythology of the Age of Pisces. Half of it was, but the other half was what?
The Old Testament.
The Age of Aries, Old
Right.
Testament. So it needed to synthesize and fuse in order to bring
So like
civilization.
astrologically, is that way the Old Testament is so angry?
Exactly. Yeah, that's because it's the Age of Aries. It's
Yeah.
like they're all constantly at war. It's like you sacrifice rams, you have to kill, an eye for an eye before you get to turn the other cheek. So what are we doing here? What was Rock Toshi doing? And what was, what the first
I
bringing
think
the,
Rock Toshi was just spreading the other cheek.
he was but I don't know if this is true, but do you know, well, the first book that I saw that was inscribed was the Bible. I don't know. I haven't seen any other book before that. So I believe it was the first book.
Yeah.
So
I think
What
that's
was
true.
Rock Toshi doing?
he was just
He was-
channeling.
he was
just channeling. He's a medium.
He was building the megalith, the
Yeah,
megalithic
he
structure. He
didn't
was
know.
hauling rocks.
Yeah, and that like thousands of years in the future, they'll be like, "How did they get all
How did they
these
put these
rocks
rocks
here?"
together?
How did they sung them together? How did they get these blocks all together?
Wow.
And that's the thing that I was getting at too with like it's hard to tell, it's hard to derive any evidence from the way that this Incan structure looks and saying like, was it really intentional that this one went with this one, or was there like some sort of like fate manipulation? It's the same with the mempool. Like that you never, I mean, Matt has brought this up before of like, especially with a nice little thing we like to call ordinal inscriptions. When you send an inscription out, it depends on who's mining. It depends on what miner is gonna write. So there's also an element of like fate mixed in
I
there.
mean, all the rocks from these megalithic structures, they were put together in a probably centralized process. A master builder told some people, you move it here. How are these transactions put together? And then how are the blocks constructed? There's a consensus, like there is a single block that's produced, but it's not a master builder. It's not a master architect.
Sort of. I mean,
Is it? It's not a human master architect.
It's complicated, right? Like the I'm trying to think of the order of transactions in a block kind of does matter. And it's done by Bitcoin Core. Like Bitcoin Core like plucks transactions out of the mempool and picks the order to include them in blocks. But Bitcoin Core itself is definitely a megalith. It's like a megalith begetting another megalith.
But Bitcoin Core is, the collection of Bitcoin Core is running on all the miners then and constructing what the most likely next block is. But you can also have, random out-of-band transactions just shoved in there.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure that there's all sorts of... I mean, transaction selection for blocks is actually surprisingly deep. Bitcoin Core does it, but I've been told that Bitcoin Core doesn't do it particularly well. So there's probably other... I wouldn't be surprised if there were other block construction software that were trying to maximize other goals.
But the kind of point is like with with the real rocks or the material rocks with the pyramids, it's like you knew somebody was like, put this block there. Right now, what we're witnessing is a totally new way of concentrating energy into literally stacking blocks, where it's not one, like slave driver, master architect whipping and saying put there. It's like a collective, distributed, non-singular, non-centralized process that from which the blocks just emerge. Something that we haven't seen in the previous ages.
Yeah, and that goes back to this idea of like one half of the cycle is a telepathic network, and then the other half of the cycle is individual hierarchy.
Right. So in a way, we kind of see like the precursors of this coming, next 6 ages maybe in the way the Bitcoin network works. The miners are themselves kind of like telepathically communicating with each other by simply being on the same like wavelength about the consensus algorithm. But it's not us yet. We're not like fully like immersed in it.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be. This generation is not. It's going to be like take hundreds of years.
Well, and that's what Aaron was bringing up earlier today about the numerology of Bitcoin, and then also the idea of the age of Aquarius really coalescing in the year 2100, and like that's when there's gonna like the 2100 is gonna be the year.
Like literally, I've seen like 2140 like written out verbatim by astrologers as
That's
being
insane.
the beginning of the age of Aquarius, and I'm like, they don't know.
They don't know. Yeah.
Like,
that's where Aquarian Conspiracy comes into.
yeah, this is
like
conspiracy, you know.
is like there's a massive connection between Bitcoin and astrology and numerology. And
once you make anything complicated enough, it has these cycles to it, right? And then you can find them, right? Like I found the a cycle, right?
Right, yeah.
And that anything complicated enough has these cycles. You can find them.
It's to me that's like the divine intelligence, like sort of revealing itself through this, and then you have to like channel it.
I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. The cycle, like the halving and the difficulty adjustment. Every 6 halvings happen on the same block. I'm really surprised that nobody like noticed that or commented on it. I did like Google searches to try to. It
probably would take astrologers to really like
care.
Yeah.
Like, because what's the point, right? What does it matter?
Legendary sats.
Exactly. You ascribe meaning, right? And yeah, it is. That's why like Pierre Rochard saying that ordinal theory is astrology for Bitcoin is like. He gets it.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah, he gets it.
Yeah.
He doesn't
that's
realize
true.
how much he's on the money.
That point.
People are getting it.
I would say another thing Bitcoin gives us is, okay, so like, early Christians and then deep into the age of Pisces and maybe not until the Gregorian calendar, I don't know. But we had a very clear year zero. We say, why is it the year 2023? It's because it's 223 years after year zero, which was the birth of Christ. The initiates of the Bitcoin world, they say, what day is it? What year is it? And also what block height it is. They have a new year zero, or they have it's not a year,
calendrical
because
knowledge.
Also we're transcending a cosmological notion of time cycles, and we're entering into this weird kind of like stochastic like digital notion of a cycle, and then counting like the number of those things that have happened since the 0 point.
Yeah.
And so we're living in I see that as a transition when like, Bitcoin podcasters are like, block high is 770 blah.
Well, this is like something I've really wanted to do with ordinal inscriptions. Someone else can steal my idea and I'll be happy if they do. Like I'd like to do it, but I don't care. I just want it to happen. I've noticed
this is very much the vibe of inscriptions. People are like, I had an idea. I have so many ideas.
Like
please
someone do it.
Almost so I don't
just
have to, and I can just look at it.
Exactly. Literally. Like what I would love to do is I would love to find sats from important astrological events, and then inscribe a chart of the event on that sat.
Yeah.
And just as the megastructures of the past were tied to the astrological time and place that they were constructed, this is what I need to do.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking, really because like Bitcoin right now exists in this embryonic state that's kind of like disassociated and alienated from the material world, the real, and slowly it's accumulated this effect on the real as well as the real affecting it. But right now, just like the pyramids and all these other things which had this cosmic plan imprinted onto it, Bitcoin is like waiting for us to imprint that cosmic plan onto it. Or either it waits or it will naturally happen as it emerges.
I think that it'll naturally happen. My totally like wingnut woo-woo theory is like if the age of Aquarius really like coalesces or begins at like 2140, and that is like the end of the distribution of all 21 million Bitcoin, that's going to be the moment when it just like naturally like the meaning or the zeitgeist, the spirit of the time is also going to coalesce. Like Bitcoin as this megalithic structure is going to start broadcasting its signal at that moment when all 21 million are there and distributed.
Slightly less than
right.
100 million.
When the entire value
it's
system.
Actually it's actually 2.09909 something.
Zeno's paradox.
Yeah, exactly. When the entire value system of the society is dependent on people trading rare luxury pepes on the main chain.
Luxury pepes, I can't wait.
The free network.
Also, wait, this is like sort of anecdotal. When Matt and I were working on this and we were talking about like the Göbekli Tepe inscriptions, and people are like now archaeologists are like trying to figure out like, there's a lot of bulls and it's like carved into these stones, and like what could that possibly mean? And all of really art history of antiquity is a lot of guesswork, where a lot of interpretation, where you're trying to figure out the sequence of things, like maybe this came before this, and like here's our evidence for like why after Nefertiti all women portraits started getting represented in XYZ way. So that's all of like ancient art history. What I can't wait for, and I know that you guys have talked about this with regards to ordinal inscriptions, is like, so there's the booty tap pepes. Have you seen?
That was just it's a huge leap. What, the booty tap pepes? Okay.
In ordinal inscriptions, there's a whole collection of booty tap pepes.
Are they?
It's like Pepe with his butt, and then like a Salvador Dali painting tattooed on his butt. So
He's
you learn
like
about
mooning the
classic
audience.
art by.
But you said it's a collection. They're all the same, or
no? It's different artworks tatted on their booties.
okay.
On the Pepe.
What's like the vibe here? Like,
So to me, what's
are
interesting?
These erotic?
No, they're not.
Okay.
It's literally
like
just
mooning.
a Pepe mooning.
Yeah. Okay.
And
It's
then
cheeky.
it's like and there's like Salvador Dali on the booties. And what's interesting to me is that those are a sub 300K inscription. Like they came out, I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so in the chronological period of time of things being inscribed, I truly do believe my like dream product for ordinal inscriptions is a product called Alexandria.
Yes.
My foundation will archive
If any
the world.
VCs are out there, she's pitching.
Yeah, this is me shilling.
All right.
Anybody, please give me some
How
money
many
for
Bitcoin
this.
do you need, girl? Let's hear it. Let's go.
Let's go.
Library of Alexandria on the blockchain. Ooh,
Exactly.
Yeah. That'll make
That's-
the maxis mad.
Yeah.
Just like at 4 megs of like Project Gutenberg.txt
Exactly.
files from now to eternity.
Yeah. That's exactly
Block
what I
one,
want.
Call me Ishmael.
But that's what I want.
Yeah.
It's like, that's it. But in any case, because I know that my dream will come true eventually, this whole like Alexandria project. But the archiving of like the real Salvador Dali paintings is going to be chronologically after the booty tap pepes of Salvador Dali. So
Can you just start that sentence again?
Like
I really,
every time you say
I really
that,
thought I had it, and then it just evaded
get
me right at the
But
end.
you're talking from the perspective of a viewer, and we should like explain who that viewer is and
right. So
what does it entail, this conclusion that we have that Bitcoin is a megastructure, perhaps the megastructure of the Age of Aquarius. It is the thing that will, after everything else has returned to dust, all the other hard drives have like been wiped clean, Bitcoin will be the only way that future civilizations, thousands of years from now, millennia from now, will know that we even existed. It's the only the remnant.
How did they move
It's a good
those
soundbite.
blocks?
Like, how do they move the blocks?
and
why do they do that?
Mm-hmm.
and it depends, and the what humans did in this, what our civilization did, it depends. Ordinal inscriptions will be that only archive, because Bitcoin will be the only thing that is.
The paintings themselves will have been returned to dust.
Yeah, they will.
Guys, this is really a lot of responsibility. This is pretty deep here.
And that's why I want the VCs to entrust their money with me, so that I can provide a proper archive.
I love it.
Inscribe a proper archive. But yeah, so if Bitcoin is the thing that transcends our civilization, is the only thing broadcasting the signal to future civilizations, then the archive that is inscribed on the Bitcoin blocks, on the sats, are that record. It is the Library of Alexandria that cannot be burned. It is the record of civilization at this time and place. But when you are a future archaeologist from the year, you're in the age of
3,000.
Capricorn.
4,000.
Yeah. 4,000. Then, and you're looking back specifically at the chronological order of the inscriptions. What would come before the Dali, because Dali has not been inscribed yet, as far as I know, the booty tap Pepe
Of the
has came
Dali
before. And so future
tattooed
archaeologists,
on the booty of Pepe.
They will think that the actual Salvador Dali painting was an elaboration
Yes.
of the
booty tap Pepe.
Right,
They're going
right.
to be like, wow, Pepe was the god, and Pepe
they're gonna
like
think
inspired.
Pepe was a god. I'm
See,
sure.
Pepe is a god. Pepe is a trickster god.
He is a trickster god, yeah.
That's so true.
So there's going to be like booty tap Pepe discourse.
Yeah.
Like archaeologists, there's going to be, and then like we had imagined that there's going to be like this Graham Hancock-esque person who's like, no, the Dali came before, and it's going to be like this hugely contested
alternative
theory.
history.
Alternative Dali theory.
And people will be like, no, Salvador Dali paintings couldn't have come before the booty tap. So yeah.
They're sub 300K. I mean, they're OG.
You can't contest the math.
Yeah. Wow. This is pretty deranged. But I'm really here for it, and I really believe it, honestly, too. Like this is like the way that I think about ordinal inscriptions. Like I'm like graffiti on the megastructure of the Age of Aquarius.
I really like that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I mean, it can span anything: graffiti, scribbles, typos. I inscribed a typo the other day, all the way to our greatest masterpieces or homages to the masterpieces of the
You
previous
want to
age.
add mutability to fix things, and I'm like, no, fuck you. You go once, you do it live, and that's how it is.
First
We
try.
do it live, bro. I feel like we should wrap things up here. But
Okay.
should we talk about the Aquarian Conspiracy? Should we chill?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's chilling
We need to
time.
chill.
Yeah, be shameless.
It's
You
the
know,
time
come on,
to
let's
chill.
go.
It
We've
is
given
the
our
time.
thesis. You've teased your project. Is there somewhere else people can like read more about this? Maybe at some point, like you've got like literally pages of notes. Like
You should
there's-
just publish these slides somewhere.
We might. There is talk of a forthcoming essay to be published.
manifesto.
A manifesto.
Yeah, we're gonna publish an essay elaborating on this thesis.
Perfect. Yeah,
And
we'll
then,
link it once it's out.
You are part of the Aquarian Conspiracy,
I am.
a group of conspiracy, a collection of
Astrologers.
astrologers.
Yeah, Casey's
and
just supportive.
I'd say our in light of this thesis, our collective goal is to imprint ourselves onto the universe in a way that is appropriate for the Age of Aquarius,
Totally.
and gather a culture around us that wants to do the same.
And the Aquarian Conspiracy is a group that's making the association between Bitcoin and astrology. These associations that are numerological, astrological. We're here to like actually elucidate these connections, these very real connections.
And I really think like with the beginning of the Age of Aquarius, like we need new myths. Like we are myth making, whether we are consciously aware that we're myth making or not. Like that is what's happening. We're creating new myths of our time. And I think, I'm interested in the project of like doing that consciously and bringing the esoteric like spirituality culture to Bitcoin in that. So yeah, we have a event during Bitcoin week in Miami.
How did it take so long to shill the event? We had shilling time, and you guys were just like circling the drain. Like, you got to
sorry.
get to it. Okay.
No,
Like,
No, I know.
Well, we have an event May 17th in Miami, and
yes.
we it's going to be over in the Wynwood area, I think near the
It's like the
design
Wednesday
district.
before the conference.
Right.
Yeah.
Very chic area. It's going to be very fun, very exclusive. We're selling tickets
Very
for
Art Basel.
it's going to be a full day of talks of astrologers, philosophers, artists.
Esoteric
and
adventurers.
should we talk about the VIP tickets?
I don't even know.
It's your shilling.
I don't know.
yes.
They're the ones
The
you
answer is
discussed
yes.
it.
We you can buy a ticket to the event on May
We'll
17th,
link it,
which is
aquarianconspiracy.org.
it will be
This
linked.
long to say the website?
But
Oh my God.
Jesus.
We're bad at shilling.
You're trained at this point. You are.
fully trained.
Yeah.
And you can buy a ticket to the event, which will be great. You can also buy. We have. We'll be inscribing. You can buy
Yes.
some.
We'll
You
be
can buy.
inscribing all of the zodiac signs.
All 12
and
zodiac signs.
If you purchase one of the inscriptions, that's a VIP ticket, and that includes personal reading from one of our
Astrologers.
incredible astrology hosts, a VIP dinner,
Aaron, no, I'm not going to promise anything.
and attendance to the event.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. It should be a day of myth making, a day of interesting astrological, esoteric, spiritual topics,
Dionysian revelry.
ordinal inscriptions, happy hour. Yeah, it's going to be fucking awesome. And it's been insane. Like, this is the first time we're even talking about this on How Money, but like the interest is already there. Like we've barely even had to shill and promote. That's why we're so
That's why we're bad at it. because
we're
people are just
channeling
so-
the fucking zeitgeist.
Exactly. We're tapped in. So yeah, come if you're going to Bitcoin Miami, you're interested in this shit, come hang out.
It's going to be rad.
It's going to be rad.
It will be rad.
I would say if you're not, you're doomed to perish without even a wisp of a memory of you for the coming ages.
Astrologically cucked, in other words.
Astrologically, yeah, annihilated. You're just going to be annihilated, which I respect.
That's perfect. Should we end it there?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, thank you, Matt and Bethany, for coming on the
Thanks
pod.
Thanks for
This is
having
awesome.
us.
Yeah. Good excuse to make Casey not talk about ordinals for like an hour. Pretty fucking crazy. Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Later, guys.